So what happened? The Fever slow it down. They get into the beautiful motion offense we've all been in love with since the start of the season. Oh, pass, screen away. Oh, what a thing of beauty. Pass, screen away. Oh my goodness. Did you see how Kelsey Mitchell just set that screen? Mwah! Magnificent. And the Valkyrie, Natalie Nakase, and the crew, they said, oh, now's our time to strike. So over the remainder of the first quarter, the whole entire second quarter, after being up 20-11 with 3 minutes and 30 seconds to go, the Golden State Valkyrie proceed to go on a 30-12 run for the next 13 minutes.
I thought we started really well. I thought we were competitive. I thought we played with energy in the first 5 minutes. And then, when they kind of went on their first run, it kind of deflated us a little bit, which I'm not really sure why. But the offense, I think, for us, it starts on defense. And we, struggled, scouting report wise. We struggled personnel. We struggled to do what the coaches asked of us. And then, overall, we just played with more energy and effort. And, those are the things that just can't happen.
What happens when one of the most anticipated returns in women's basketball turns into a complete disaster? That's the question everyone's asking after Caitlin Clark's long-awaited comeback game ended in frustration, confusion, and a stunning blowout loss. The energy inside Gainbridge Fieldhouse was electric at first. Fans packed the arena, eager to see their star back in uniform. This was supposed to be a celebration, a continuation of the Fever's recent momentum. Instead, they witnessed a chaotic mess of questionable coaching decisions, poor execution, and a complete unraveling of team chemistry. And behind it all stood head coach Stephanie White, whose post-game comments lit a match that's still burning. Because this wasn't just about one bad night. It was about leadership, or the lack of it. Just a few days earlier, the Indiana Fever were riding high. They had just captured their first Commissioner's Cup, and they were doing it without Caitlin Clark on the floor. They beat elite teams like the Las Vegas Aces, shutting down Aya Wilson in the process, and then handled the Minnesota Lynx led by Nafisa Collier. The team had rhythm. They had purpose. Roles were clear. Kelsey Mitchell was scoring efficiently. Aaliyah Boston was dominating inside. Lexi Hull was playing solid defense and providing floor spacing. Everything felt like it was finally coming together, and the Fever looked more than just competitive, they looked dangerous. Then came July 9th. Clark was back. The hype had been building for days. Tickets sold out. Social media buzzed. This was the night fans had circled on their calendars. But from the moment the game began, it was obvious something wasn't right. Stephanie White decided to shake things up in the worst way possible, benching Lexi Hull, one of the team's most reliable players, and starting Aari McDonald alongside Clark. That meant Clark was no longer at point guard. She was moved off ball, to small forward, a role that doesn't suit her natural instincts. She wasn't running the offense. She wasn't dictating the tempo. And she wasn't being put in the position where she's most impactful. It didn't take long for the whole thing to fall apart. The Fever shot a dismal 31% from the field. They made just 6 of their 27 attempts from deep. In the second and fourth quarters combined, they scored only 19 points. Meanwhile, the Golden State Valkyries, an expansion team still finding its footing, looked like seasoned veterans. They dominated the glass, pushed the pace, and exposed every weakness in Indiana's system. What started as excitement quickly turned into disbelief. The crowd grew silent, and the players looked just as lost as the fans felt. The deeper issue wasn't just bad shooting, it was the system itself. Pulling Hull from the starting 5 removed a key piece of spacing and defense. Forcing Clark to play off ball threw off the timing of the offense. And while McDonald had earned her minutes with strong performances during Clark's absence, asking her to take over the primary playmaker role, without enough time to build chemistry, was a gamble that didn't pay off. The offense lacked structure. The ball barely moved. The tempo was flat. And everyone seemed out of sync. Clark, meanwhile, looked like a role player, not a franchise cornerstone. Her minutes were limited. Her touches were sporadic. She spent large stretches of the game setting screens or standing in the corner. Still, when she did have the ball, the difference was clear. She hit shots, found teammates, and tried to lift the team's energy. But those moments were too brief to change the game's outcome. It was clear to anyone watching. Clark wasn't being used right, and she knew it. So did the fans. So did the analysts. And it showed all over social media, where frustration exploded in real time. Then came the press conference, and the real damage. Instead of owning the mistakes, Stephanie White doubled down. She criticized her team's effort, discipline, and attention to detail. She said they lacked competitive fire. And while some of that may be true, what stood out was what she didn't say. She didn't mention the risky lineup change. She didn't acknowledge Clark's role shift. She didn't take responsibility for the strategy that clearly failed. It was finger-pointing with no reflection. Clark's interview told a different story. She calmly admitted the team didn't follow the scouting report. She said they needed to regroup. She took ownership of the loss without making excuses. That contrast between the player and the coach spoke volumes. One was focused on improvement. The other was deflecting blame. And for fans watching closely, it raised a serious question. Are these two even on the same page? It's more than just a personality clash. It's a fundamental difference in philosophy. White is a coach who values structure, predictability, and control. Clark is a generational talent who thrives on creativity, feel, and freedom. Her instincts are what make her great. When she's allowed to read the floor and lead, she elevates everyone around her. But when she's micromanaged or pushed into an unnatural role, that magic disappears. One analyst put it plainly, Stephanie White's system doesn't fit Caitlin Clark's game. And that's a big problem. Now the Fever are at a turning point. They have the pieces. Clark, Boston, Mitchell, Hull. They're all talented enough to take this team deep into the playoffs. But if the system continues to suppress those strengths, the results won't change. The longer the confusion continues, the more momentum slips away. A 19-point loss to an expansion team is more than a bad night. It's a red flag. And unless something changes fast, the Fever are in danger of wasting what could be a special season. That's why some fans and insiders are starting to say it's time for Clark to speak up. Time to challenge the organization. Not out of ego, but out of necessity. You can't ask her to carry the league, to sell out arenas, to represent the brand, and then treat her like an afterthought in your game plan. If you want her to lead, then you need to let her lead. That means building a system around her strengths, not forcing her into someone else's mold. This moment could define not just the Fever's season, but their future. Stick with the current plan, and you risk more blowout losses, more locker room tension, and more wasted potential. But if the team takes a hard look at what went wrong, makes the right adjustments, and starts putting its stars in the right positions, they could become a serious contender. Clark, Boston, Mitchell, Hull. That's a championship caliber core. But only if they're given the system and support they need. So where do the Fever go from here? That's the question hanging over the entire franchise. The season is halfway over. The pressure is mounting. Will they choose accountability and growth, or will they continue down a path of missed opportunities? Because the window for change is open right now. And if they don't act fast, it won't be long before it closes. And that could change not just the course of one team, but the legacy of one of the greatest talents the WNBA has ever seen.